is NVIDIA a monopoly? So through everything external that I've said about Apple, I had people say, Pat, first of all, I hate you, but also Apple is not the monopolist. What about NVIDIA? And I had somebody who showed me a matrix that said NVIDIA had 97.7% of the market, AMD had 1.8, and Intel had 0.6. Now, we never got, the poster never got back to me to tell me, what market, what region, what's the duration of time. But here's the point, folks. It's not illegal to have 97.7% market share. What it's illegal to do is use that monopolistic power to squash competition, raise prices, or reduce innovation. And as we talked about on this show, you have to have a well-defined market, right? What is the market that a company would be a monopolist in? And oh, by the way, even if you have 50% globally or 25% globally, if you have 75%, actually 50% is the bar here in the United States, that could be the case. So with NVIDIA does a lot of things, right? They're certainly not the AI. They don't have the AI monopoly because AI goes across smartphones, PCs, and the data center. People could say, oh, they have a monopoly in data center training, which, by the way, statistically is correct. But remember, it's not against the law to have monopoly market share, right? You have to have the durability test too. The one that the Department of Justice used against Apple was essentially said, you have had this monopoly position for a decade, okay? And with NVIDIA, I don't know, has it been a decade? Probably more along the lines of 5 years. Now, if you can't show how they reduced competition. Now, with that said, at the other side of my mouth, I just want to say that NVIDIA does need to be very careful to make sure it doesn't, let's say, restrict certain accelerator vendors onto their software and APIs, right? And it's kind of like a similar Apple conversation, which, by the way, other posters about Apple said, Pat, you're an idiot. The government can't force a company to open up its APIs to its competitors. Well, guess what? Newsflash. That's exactly what the US government did to Microsoft, is it forced it to open up APIs to competitors. So when it comes to NIM, when it comes to CUDA, Intel, part of the all the lawsuits against Intel, including AMD's, was that Intel was using CPU ID with ISVs that said only Intel, genuine Intel with the CPU ID would actually work, and for AMD the software wouldn't work. So NVIDIA's got to watch it. It doesn't pass the monopolist test or the illegal monopolist test at this point.
Yeah, you're always balancing the two. You're dealing with consumer harm and then you're dealing with competition. And that's always kind of those two different litmus tests for anti-competitive behavior. And then, of course, anti-competitive intent versus monopolistic market share, which, you can have a monopolist market share but not be showing any anti-competitive behaviors. This is kind of interesting because there really was no competition for a long time. They've been basically doing this and building this. Jensen came out and basically said, we create markets. We don't compete in markets. So when you create a market, you get enough size and scale. Like what they built, the framework top to bottom, it really didn't exist. And so for accelerated computing, there were some different efforts being made by different companies, but no one had really completed the stack. And that was where NVIDIA got a lot of its leverage early on. I've said this for a long time, Pat, as we've sort of tried to debate this whole monopoly thing with different companies, whether it's been Apple or Qualcomm or others, is the FTC and these other regulators, should they be looking at stopping monopolies before they become monopolies? And how much should they be getting involved in that?
Wow.
Is it is it the burden of proof of like you are already doing this? Like, should the person have to commit the crime and then you fix it? Or should the, you know, it was kind of like when Adobe, you know, went in Figma deal, it was like that really wasn't a monopoly, but they kind of stopped it because it was like, well, it could become one.
Like
when does it be?
It's like pre-crime.
It's like pre-crime. So we've got Tom, you know, here I am, Tom Cruise. I'm sitting here. It's Tom Cruise, right? I'm better looking, of course, but you know, I'm sitting here at the ball. I'm waiting. Oh shoot, it's me. Jensen's gonna. Oh crap, it's me. I do think directionally that is where it's going. I mean, I don't see, you know, the CUDA lock-in is a real thing. It's definitely being countered with some different layers of abstraction and frameworks. Everybody's trying to address it. There's not a lot of, there's been a lot of optionality for hardware. There's some different compilers out there that are enabling, but the fact that it's very, very hard to move applications for accelerated compute from one hardware to another could be seen as something that is somewhat monopolistic. I think if anything, it's sort of the systems approach. You know, I think someone at the Broadcom Investor Day called it an AI mainframe, was what they kind of described it as. And I think the fact that they're going to the point where it's almost impossible for anyone in the supply chain of NVIDIA to make money besides NVIDIA. And that's going to be an interesting inflection as that continues to proliferate through the market, right? Is, you know, they are uniquely outpacing every other company. No matter how much value is added throughout the supply chain, they do take up the majority of the BOM. Again, that's not monopolistic in itself. But if there's no way for people to sort of build it, so this is where things like Ethernet and different EFA, like what different companies are doing to build, you know, the networking part, which NVIDIA is trying to cram into the quote unquote AI mainframe, the cabling, the box, the power, everything that, you know, as it goes and becomes more consolidated. But the consolidation of the hardware added to the software, added to the immobility of the data and the applications does create some level of concern that it could become a monopoly. What I say is not a monopoly now. Could it become one? Yes. Is this going to be something we'll keep debating? Absolutely. I think we'll know a lot better in about a year when we start to see some capacity, some indication of how much other hardware is being deployed in the market, that we'll have a better idea if this portability of applications is real. And if, you know, in fact, NVIDIA is on its way to monopoly. But to their credit, congratulations on winning 97.6% of the GPU market. There's a lot of competent companies that have not competently been able to develop competition in a meaningful and immediate fashion. Not easy to do. And that's why they have this kind of power right now.
It's good, man. I don't know if it's 97.7 of the GPU market. It's probably 97.7.
I think it's 97.6
of the data center. But anyway.
Yes. Sorry.
Hey, ask your
data center GPUs. We're not talking about gaming GPUs right now.
Will you get your data practice and start? I
have an AI chipset data coming out in end of May.
I'm so excited for that. And you know what? Even though I didn't do it, I'm still going to talk about it.